every instrument seems to have a reputation. Guitarists seem to be the cool, chill ones. Violinists are the perfectionists. We have the trumpets who have these massive egos. And we even have the piano, which is seen as kind of the prodigy of the music world. But are these stereotypes just jokes, or is it something deeper? Today we're diving into, are stereotypes true and the why behind them, from science, history, to maybe even some psychology. Let's get started. And spoiler, the truth might surprise you. First off, why do we even have these stereotypes? Where did they come from? How did they evolve into what they are today? Well, first off, I think a lot of it comes from how the instrument sounds. The trumpet, it's loud, it's bright, and it usually plays the melody. So, people who play the trumpet often get labeled as loud, annoying, and this sort of main character energy that translates from the melody being played all the time to they think that they are the most important in the band. The flute, most of the time, plays pretty airy and graceful, so people who play the flute get labeled as delicate and gentle. Then we have the drummers. The drum is a loud and unpredictable instrument. They often get labeled as crazy, wild child, and very unpredictable, chaotic people. Something else that plays a part into how stereotypes kind of became a thing was, I believe, the role in the group. In a band, the guitar is usually in the spotlight, so now that kind of creates this labeling of and personality type of rock star. The bass instrument holds the whole song together and is pretty calm in most songs. I will say there are some songs where the bass goes crazy, but most songs is just a pretty chill bass line, so they often get labeled as dependable, steady, and chill. And then we have the violinist, which, as I said before, is often leading the band as a concertmaster. So the violins are often disciplined and very serious because of how important and vital their role is. And of course, pop culture fuels the fire just even more. Like, for example, Animal from the Muppets. Yeah, all he wants to do is play the drum, and he's literally insane. That's why they call him Animal. Or if you know of the famous violinist Lindsey Stirling, who's breaking the mold of this uptight violinist. She's having fun, she's doing crazy things playing the violin. Definitely go check her out if you haven't. Or Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's taking the bass and creating a whole new dynamic, whole new personality of someone who just kind of goes off. But it's not all surface level. A lot of these impressions actually come from the skill that it takes to play these instruments. For example, the violinist takes thousands and thousands of hours of practicing to make it sound perfect with the intonation and making sure the bowing is right. So yes, after practicing a lot of those hours, and people who put in that amount of time are going to be more disciplined, more leaders, and more kind of uptight. Or we have the drums that require a lot of coordination and a lot of timing. The bass is all about groove and subtlety, so they're all about being steady and supportive. Now that we've kind of talked through some different personalities and why, which instrument do you think is the most weirdly accurate? Please drop it down in the comments. And now let's talk about the actual science behind some of this. Scientists have actually taken the time and looked into how playing instruments affects our brain. So pianists show stronger connection between the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, which makes sense because they're playing two different parts with both hands. Drummers actually scored high in, obviously, rhythm, but also in impulse control, which is kind of strange, especially because when we think of drummers, we think of chaos. String players actually have higher and more developed areas in the brain for fine motor skills and for auditory perception, which is just hearing, because they have to listen for their intonation and make sure they're in tune 24/7. So here's the million-dollar question. Did the chicken or the egg come first? Do people choose their instruments based on their personality, or does their personality get influenced by the instruments they play? I think it's probably both. A confident kid is going to try out the trumpet, and I think someone who's very detail-oriented is going to reach for the violin. But also, years and years of practice can reinforce those traits into their brain and into their personality. So in other words, the stereotype might start out as a personality magnet and kind of draw you in, but in the end up as a fulfilling prophecy of, this is just who I am, and this is the instrument that just helps me express that in the best way possible. So what's the verdict? I am an autumn. If you don't get that reference, don't, just keep going. So is stereotypes actually true about people who play the instrument? I believe that it's yes and no. I think that there's a tiny bit of truth to the stereotypes. Instruments both require a certain set of skills and attitudes to those who play them, but mostly they're just exaggerated shortcuts because, well, they are kind of funny. I actually know a trumpet player who I think I've heard her speak 3 words. I even know a violinist, and he is one of the most funniest and laid-back person that I've ever met, which is weird because he plays a violin. So the instrument you play doesn't necessarily define your personality. It just kind of is a way for you to express it. For example, me, I can play both the trumpet and the piano. So on a day that I'm feeling more confident, more loud, I might lean into playing the trumpet and expressing myself that way. Versus on a day where I'm a little bit more sad, quiet, a little bit more reserved, I might just stick to the piano. It all just kind of depends on how I want to express how I'm feeling that day. Every player brings something unique to their sound, to their style, to just their overall vibe of playing that instrument and music itself. My takeaway is don't let a stereotype scare you away from playing an instrument, or if you are already playing it, make you feel like you have to fit in this perfect little box. Because in the end, the best kind of band is one full of all different personalities, and if you are in band, you know that every single person is different and awesome in their own way. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave down in the comments if you agree or disagree, or if you have some crazy stereotypes that I didn't mention, and we'll see you guys next time.